Were you surprised to see this, Kratz? I mean, I'm a big fan of Michael King, and it's a good sign when the team that experienced his injury issues over the past year is signing him back. So that's good. It just seemed like the Padres were going to have to be a little more careful with how they spend. This is awesome if you're a Padres fan. Michael King, when he's feeling right, can pitch game one of a postseason appearance for you. So I think 3 years, 75 million bucks and two player options, sign me up compared to what it's going to cost for some other guys who I think he has the same upside as.
I think he might have a larger upside, based on the fact that it's not that long of a contract. You're looking to get maybe, Kinger probably wants to reestablish his value, and it's something that he can do that, opt out, and go get paid again. But this is who's pissed about this signing? Every small market that's like, we just have a tough time. We're trying to stay under budget. We've heard that from the Padres. They have a significant ownership change, a significant ownership issue since the late Peter Seidler died and the family trust and everything that's going on. All we've heard is, not sure what's going to happen. They couldn't re-sign Suarez. That's why they were movers and shakers and got Mason Miller, had a huge trade deadline acquisitions last year. And then they signed a pitcher to a $25 million contract. Like, if all of a sudden everyone's crying poor and the Padres do this, people aren't just like, I wonder what's going to happen to them later. Really feel bad for them. This is bad. This is great for baseball. This is bad for everybody else who says, we're just really strapped for cash. Because the Padres, we've heard they've had do they have to get rid of Tatis? No, it's not happening. Machado? No, it's not happening. They're looking to, quote, dump contracts, and they sign a dude for, I'm just going to say $25 million a year because that's what this contract is, assuming what I assume is going to happen with Michael King. He's going to go out and he's going to deal, and he's going to opt out of his contract.
Yeah, and I was so sad when he left the New York Yankees. I absolutely loved him. I love the way he pitched. I love his aura. I love the way he threw the ball. His ball moves left and right. He's got a nasty pitch. He holds it. He's got that kind of, who he reminds me of, man? The late, great Roy Halladay, man, a little bit with his motions and the way he pitches. I think he's an absolute fantastic pitcher. I hope he stays healthy. We've talked about his injuries. This is a really good signing for him. And I give San Diego kudos, man, with the injuries you have, still to come back and get this type of deal for, Michael King. I think this is fantastic. Again, like this, when he is on, he is absolutely incredible. And I would say he was a top 10 pitcher when he is going. He's cooking. I absolutely love this guy, and I think he's a really, really good pitcher. Just stay healthy for me. That's all I ask. Hard to do.
For me, when you talk about him being like the late Roy Halladay,
yeah,
I caught both of them.
Yeah,
I caught Kinger when he first came up to AAA, or when he was up in AAA. When you're considered a veteran catcher in AAA, guys are like, "Oh, what do you got? What do you got?" He was so locked into what he needed to do, but then he also was like, "Hey, what do you see here?" And that's what I kept going back to him about, how he kind of has that turn like Doc had.
That's it.
He's more of a, what I would call a horizontal pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
That slider goes left, the sinker goes right, and he throws them off. And then he was able to start elevating and commanding that fastball up. And he has stayed true to who he is. He's so meticulous about his scouting reports and all the stuff that he does. That's where I equate him closest to Roy Halladay, to the fact that he knows what he needs to do. He knows what he needs to do in certain areas to certain hitters. And in the minor leagues, that was awesome. And I saw it then translate to the big leagues. One of the things I remember about Kinger, I was in AAA with him, and I would get on the mic and I would talk smack to dudes. And it was time to call Michael King up, and I was like, Kinger, I got more big league strikeouts than you, because I had a big league strikeout, and he hadn't been in the big leagues yet. But it was more of one of those things.
Yeah.
Didn't know he was gonna make $25 million, but this dude, he's got it. He's got that. I think it's the difference. He's got one of the largest differences in his sinker and his slider, or sweeper, whatever they call it now. It's horizontal, whatever differentiation. I don't know what the word is, but
no, you're right. And
he's legit.
When I said Roy Halladay, his mannerisms, the way he pitches, Roy Halladay is an exceptional pitcher.
Right.
I mean, it would be be an idiot to say that him and Roy Halladay are in the same boat. Yeah, he's a good pitcher, but his mannerisms and everything else looks just like him on the mound.
And credit to the Athletic, Tim Britton, who does the contract predictions. He said 3 years, $75 million.
Wow.
They nailed it. They did that, before the offseason started. Now there are 2 player options I mentioned, and that means opt-outs. So if he has a good year, see ya. It's a $12 million signing bonus, a $5 million salary for 2026, and a player option at 28 mil for 2027. So you figure he looks more like Michael King from 2 years ago. And then it's a $5 million buyout, and he ends up making, I think, $22 million in one season. So you're incentivized to stay with higher salaries. But if he has a banger year, he is definitely hitting the market again. And he has the potential to be a guy that gets 100-something million in a future contract.
And no qualifying offer attached to him if he has a great year this year, which is massive, because he could be,
Agreed.
he could be another. I guess if we put it on there, he basically is in that $58 million range for 27, 28. And that's that range, that 50 to 60 million. Those guys, anything over, teams are like, okay, that's fine. Like, we're fine with the qualifying offer, the draft pick. Anything in that range to slightly under, they're like, it's not quite worth it. There's a 21-year-old in college that's probably more worth it to us than, possibly winning a World Series. So that's how teams think.
True. Very true.
True. Hey, 2024 was just incredible. 2023 was great. And then 2024, he's with the Padres, right? And the Yankees traded him over. He was the prize, really, in the Juan Soto deal. His last 20 starts, I'm looking at that season, 2.24 ERA, brilliant in the playoffs. And what he did was they moved some money around. Was that for 24 or 25? So that they could open up some more payroll flexibility. They kind of pushed the buyout back. The Padres were doing some maneuvering, which is great. So he was helpful with that. Clearly, he likes to be part of this team and wants them to keep him because, remember, he was lightly rumored to be in trade discussions. And I think them reorganizing the contract about a year ago helped to close that up. Then during the season, unfortunately, deals with a pinched nerve in his shoulder and then left knee inflammation later on in the year. It was close to a lost season for him. So we'll see if he can bounce back. He's young. Last thing here, Todd Father, you said you loved watching him on the Yanks. Apparently they didn't love him enough. They didn't make an offer. So maybe they were too scared of the medicals. And that could be, right? Shoulder's no joke. Nerve issue in the shoulder. Why else wouldn't they make an offer for someone like that? They've got their sights set on Amai or somebody else, I guess.
I think they're shooting bigger. I really do. I said it the other day. The Yankees, Brian Cashman's always going in for that top pitcher on the market. And I don't think he's that top pitcher. Good for the Padres for getting Kinger, because if the Yankees miss out on Amai, if they're in on, one of the other, I think it's Amai and like a step down to Framber. No shade to Framber, but I don't think that fits there. They could have pivoted and gone to Michael King. So this is a case where some smaller markets, I guess we're calling San Diego a smaller market, but some of the teams with lower budgets are like, well, we'll wait around. Well, you know what you're going to wait around for? That standard left-handed pitcher that gets a one-year deal at the end of the offseason, and you're looking to trade him partway through the season if he does well. If he doesn't do well, then you're calling a dude off from AAA. Like, move in on a Michael King, and you put yourself right back in the playoff winning hunt, not just making the playoffs, playoff winning hunt if he can start 2 games for you. Because right now, Pavetta's starting game 1. But if he can start a game, 1 game in the DS and then game 1 of the CS for you, like, you're huge. It's huge.
And just to finish that off, like, if they don't get Amai, like, I think the Yankees got to go for Skubal, man. I know they have a lot of prospects. They have a lot of guys they can let go of. I feel like there's a possibility of them getting another big lefty. And if not, my next pick is Zach Gallen. I mean, that's besides, like you said, Framber, Ranger Schwartz is pretty good, but they have a couple lefties. I feel like they need a guy like Zach Gallen to come in and be that 4 or 5 starter. And all of a sudden, it's like he loves throwing in New York. I know that. He's from Jersey. So, I mean, call me crazy, but I think Scooble's that next one that Cashman should be looking into.
Wow. And for the Padres, they now have 3 playoff starters. Michael King, Nick Pivetta, Joe Musgrove's back. Randy Vasquez and JP Sears, among others, can fill out the rest of the rotation. Even if they don't do anything, they might look for one other depth signing, but they've got the top end of their starting rotation in place for 2026.